So yesterday we were able to show you how to make the templates for the glass tubing. Whether you use acrylic or PETG, doesn't really matter. It's just cheaper, and like in Jay's video he tells you it's a lot easier to cut acrylic or PETG because you can cut into really small pieces, but when you're doing the glass you can't really do that because you have to break it off. And to break it off, you have to have some kind of leverage to snap the glass. As you can see, I have a piece of glass that I've already cut here. This is kind of my test piece. I actually did a couple test pieces. This will be one of the SLI bridges that goes in between the two video cards. So let's jump over here and let me show you the tools we'll be using and the methods we'll be using. We'll be doing the torch method instead of the screw gun and file method. We'll still be using the file, but the screw gun, unfortunately for me, doesn't have the big mouth screw hole here to be able to put the tube into it. So since we can't do it that way, which seemed like a pretty easy and efficient way that Jay actually shows you in his video, what we'll be doing is once we've scored this and snapped it off, we'll be heating it on the torch and just getting rid of the shiny, fresh, broken glass look. As you can see, after I've done both these edges already. It doesn't cut me. And that would be crazy if it cut me right now, but it doesn't. So hey, so that's what we're doing. And then the other tools that we have, we're still going to use the file because when we snap it, there might be a high spot or a bad burr or whatever that the torch is not going to actually clean up. So I might file it down a little bit. Then we also have a triangle file. This is to make my first score in the glass when I'm marking the length of the piece. As you can see, like these two pieces, I lined it up like against my little piece of wood I have over here, and then I made my first score. And then what I'll do from there is this glass cutter, as Jay said in his video, it does walk a lot, but the thing is what I'm doing is I'm actually just scoring it with this one just to get a little start, and then I take this guy and I only go halfway. Because if you go all the way around, you end up with like a spiral line all the way around your glass, and there's no point in, that doesn't make sense. So just go halfway or quarter or whatever, because all you're trying to do is weaken the glass. Once you've weakened the glass, it'll be easy to snap, and we'll go ahead and show you that here in a few minutes. So for the most part, that covers most of the tools. As you can see, I'm using some welder gloves because they can withstand quite a bit of heat. And the one drawback about when you use the torch is once you heat this up, it takes forever to cool down. So you just gotta be patient and let it cool off. Don't put it in water because there's a good chance you're gonna just shatter your glass, or who knows what'll happen. But for the most part, that covers the tools. Let's move on. All right, so first step, I got my template. As you can see, it has a number 2 on it. So any piece that I needed to make 2 pieces of, I wrote a 2 on it. So this is one of the SLI bridges. I showed you earlier. We already had one that we made. We need to make number 2. So what we're gonna do is, this is the glass piece that I've already snapped that one off of. It was off of this edge here. So we're gonna need to flame that, but since I'm gonna cut it, why not flame both of them at the same time and let it cool down, and not have to do that twice. So what I've done here is I've put a piece of wood on the edge here and clamped it down. The reason being is I can put that against there, my tube against it, and they're both, I know, on this end the same. So then what I need to do is I need to take my triangle file and just score across here. Now the key to that is to make sure this edge is straight up and down and writing against your piece that you're using as a template, if that makes sense. So because obviously if you just have it with this edge straight down, then it's going to be pushing away from your piece a little bit. So now we've made a nice little score mark. As you can see here, it's kind of hard to see probably on the camera, but so we got that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy, and this is what I was talking about earlier. So now we need to put the cutter piece right into the score mark that we just made. Make sure it's right in there, and just kind of, I'm just going to go rock it back and forth like this. And I'm just going to go try to get it about halfway. I'm not trying to do the whole thing because this thing, like we've already talked about, it just walks too much. So there's a nice little score piece. Okay, next step, lick your finger, put a little moisture on it. Okay, got that, and point that away from you and snap. So that one actually has been the cleanest snap that we've had yet. Not bad. So that's number 2. Now we're going to take number 2 and put it next to number 1, and they are exactly the same length. So that's awesome. So now the next thing will be to flame both edges. This one doesn't look like it needs to be filed at all because it doesn't have a high point or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and prep here for the fun stuff. So the torch tip that we're using has basically 2 flame points, which is helpful for doing this. Basically, when you put the glass in there, you kind of want to get it on the, not on the very end tip, you want to get it into the other tip, which you're going to see in a second when I turn this on. Another thing you might want to do before you start to flame it is blow through it in case there's any micro pieces in there, or you could even take like a Q-tip or wash it out with water, whatever. Just get the excess glass, if there is any, inside out. Now, I don't know if you can see on camera the double flame. Yeah. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is just kind of rotate this guy in here. So now that's one edge done, but unfortunately that is extremely hot because I can already feel the heat on my fingertips right now. So I know that if I was to flip this around and try to grab that, the heat would transfer too fast through these gloves. And these are pretty thick gloves, so you can imagine how hot that is. So what we're gonna do is we need to let it cool down just a little bit, and then I can flip it around and we can do the other edge, and that's pretty much it. I'd like to show you the difference between a cut edge. Okay, so we have the SLI bridge that's been torched on both ends, and this is the non-torched edge, which is very sharp. If I did run it across my hand, it would cut me. I'm not sure how well you can see this on the camera, but if you can look at the one that's been torched versus the one that hasn't been torched, this one looks a little cloudier and this one looks really crystal clear. So, and it doesn't matter if I flip this around, it should look the same as the other edge because they've both been torched. So, and it's very, very soft. So it's obviously a lot easier to do a bigger piece because then you can use both hands. It's a lot more complicated to do a smaller one because you want to be able to roll it all the way around. So, you know, I was thinking about this, and obviously, you know, Jay has done glass and now we're doing glass, and I think some other people did it before Jay. But what I want to do is I want to bend some glass. So I'm going to take the rest of this other piece here and we're just going to heat it up and see if we could do like a 90 or something, just free-handed, and maybe start something new. Alright, so we're going to attempt to bend this glass free-handed without any kind of jigs or anything, because unfortunately the only jig I have is a premium chill bender. It's plastic, it's polymer, so this is going to be really hot, would probably melt my jig. So if you have the monsoon bending mandrels, they'd probably work because they're metal. Okay, it's starting to bend a little bit, but you know what, I'm going to stop right here because I feel that I need my other tip. So you can bend it, but now we have to figure out a way. You can bend it, but it's not like PETG or acrylic. You see how that's freaking hot. You see how it kind of flattened out here and it kind of kinked up a little bit here. Well, you can tell how hot it is, people. See how hot that is? You see my glove burn? Alright, so yeah. So now it's already to the point where it's not bendable anymore because it's cooled off enough. But as you can see, that it doesn't really give you a nice clean bend. So we're gonna do some more experimenting with that, and we'll come back to that in another video. But we will figure it out. So we got her all assembled. I still need to do a little benching on this. Other than that, it's pretty much done. We spent quite a bit of time on the cable management because the case is very complicated to hide all the wires, being that it has a lot of cutouts where the hard drive cages are at. I mean, we didn't end up building any kind of you know, cover or whatever you want to call that to cover up those holes. There was really no point because this is all about light, aesthetics, the glass. So we managed to get everything nice and tidy here in the back with all the Corsair Commander Pro stuff. David's Mainframe Customs wires, they look beautiful. Spent some time on trying to get the GPUs just right. You know, we tried a bunch of different configurations. You know, going off to the side here. And then we ended up going with more of a straight but kind of slanted look. So yeah, so I mean the glass looks awesome. It's more of an elegant look than going with like a copper, a nickel plated copper or something like I did in my last Tau for Intel. The loops were kind of similar but a little bit different, and this one has obviously a Titan V kind of stashed in between the other two video cards. The reason I did that was because of the fact that if it was at the bottom, we would end up losing 2 of the 3.0 ports. So for functionality, we had to move the Titan V in the middle. Seems to be working, but then at the same time, I don't really have anything that I can test, you know, gaming on the 2 and put the Titan V to work at the same time. So that'll be up to Emmett to do that. Now, for the rest, I mean, the lights, cool. We haven't really messed around with the Aurora suite yet. Still need to do that. I'm not sure what colors he wants it set at, but right now, like the LL fans, we have them on green and blue, so it's just switching from green to blue. And you know, those are 2 good colors for this setup. And then the clear liquid looks really good with it in the glass. It's just almost like the tubes aren't even there. You know, you can hardly see them. They're just kind of hiding, but then you can see all the shiny fittings. So yeah, so overall, I'm pretty stoked. Came out pretty good. So I'm gonna do a delivery this weekend, and you know, see how things go. So thanks for watching. Until next time. This is another one of those episodes where we only have 1 bar of battery left. Let's see if Lee can get it within the next 2 hours.
90 minutes of batteries.
But no time on the card.
No time on the card.
All right.